All right. Can I interest you in 7-5 Duke and UVA in the ACC championship game? Let's talk some football. Jack Allen, Josh Neighbors here, College Countdown Podcast, 365 Sports Network, and the Rogue Media Network. We'll break down some of the football that happened this weekend, what it means moving forward. He is at Jack Allen TV. I'm at Josh Neighbors _, and we are at CC Podcast JN. All right. So, Jack, actually, I'll give you the floor here. Where do you want to start from this past weekend of football that was and kind of what it means moving forward? So, floor is yours.
I would love to start. So I don't necessarily get a chance every week to sit down and watch football normally because I'm out covering football. This week, I actually got to sit down. We got done with the Harding game. I was back at the station by about 6:30, just in time to sit down and watch the Iron Bowl. And I got to watch Ty Simpson make one of the least athletic fourth down runs of my life to get that fourth, and it was like 2 across, only to turn around and lead a great drive that, Josh, I don't know what roughing the passer is anymore, but use it to your advantage. Alabama gets a big win, SEC championship bound. I want to know what your thoughts are about that last drive for Alabama and whether or not that was sort of a must-win situation for the Tide.
So I'm going to actually defer here because I had the same thing as you. I was like, what do I think about this? And I heard a great comment about this on Cover 3 today where Chip Patterson's like, if you're going to send the house the way Auburn did, which I appreciate, that might be a occupational hazard at that point, maybe. I know. I understand the call, but it's like if you keep putting yourself in the situations where Ty Simpson got bodied, like mostly they're coming after him, which shut up, not a Durkin guy. By all means, not a Durkin guy. I appreciate the way those guys play for him, really, especially on that side of the ball. Those guys play hard. That last drive by Alabama was a little bit of just, I mean, you love the poetry, right? It was very NFL, right? They chewed up like 1,000 minutes of clock. It's a bunch of conversions, just, and I'll tell you, Jack, to use the old combat sports, usually it's a boxing adage, by hook, which means by right or left hook, by a punch, or by crook, which usually means the judges' scorecards, which are not always trustworthy in boxing, get the job done. And I'm a Kalen DeBoer dude, so I guess maybe that's where I'm coming from on this. But yeah, man, like that's what winning football looks like, I guess. Like the Chiefs, it's like, why did that call go their way? I can't tell you, but guess what?
They took advantage.
And they made 4 plays around it. Give them credit, but the 5th needed to be on their side, and it was. So create your own luck. I'm not sure if you buy into that at all, but I think that's where I'm at. Where it's like, yeah. It always felt like it was going to end in a tight 17-0. Talk to me in the fourth quarter. There's always going to be a 1-possession game.
Well, and it felt very much like it felt like it was setting up for a classic Auburn win in an Iron Bowl where you look up in the fourth quarter and you're like, wait, how did this happen? And then one or two, I think it felt a lot like, Nick Marshall out there. There were a few times there's one game, I can't remember which year it was, but where it's like he's rolling out and throws a pass on the run and it winds up being this long touchdown play. And it just kind of had those vibes where it's like they shouldn't be here, but they've had just enough big plays and just enough breaks go their way that this is somehow going to happen. And credit to Alabama for not letting that craziness and kind of the like unpredictable plays get the best of them down the stretch. Because I think we've seen Alabama teams in the past in that game fold whenever those weird breaks start going against them.
So I don't want to. I'm not going to do like the conference championship. Do you want to play it? Do you not want to play it? Thing. I think it's it's so overplayed. Them in Georgia. Let's just do the Georgia thing now. Like that was the fastest second half football ever. I know because I took a nap and I had to go back and rewatch the second half of the game because it zipped right through. Georgia took some lumps. They got banged up in the second half, but Kirby's got them right back to where they are. If they were to play Notre Dame today in a semifinal game, I'm not sure it would go terribly differently than last year's. Not a huge Gunnar Stockton's like discount, like is the Ashton Daniels is discounts Nick Marshall, you just mentioned. Gunnar Stockton, a little bit of discount Stetson Bennett in that game over there. Maybe more of a Jake Frommish type guy. But Georgia, once again, we've talked all year about how even the SEC is now, especially. And guess who's playing in Atlanta at the end of the year?
In the year of parity, we get Alabama, Georgia in the SEC championship game. Like that was what was running through my mind by the end, was like, and it very much felt like the way that game played out, where it's like, as much craziness as there was at the end of the game, there was Alabama, and at the end of the game, there was Georgia, standing tall at the end, playing for an SEC title. And thank goodness for the SEC that the tiebreaker situation didn't come down to being too crazy. I'm looking at you, ACC. But in the year of parity, we get the same.
All right, so let's do the ACC now. Also, shout out to Texas. Good job. That's a good win. It's okay. Marcel Reed's not amazing. He wasn't amazing last year. He's much better than he was last year. Like, quarterbacks get better. That doesn't mean that they become best. Arch Manning, for example, I think is a good. He's taking a lot of heat this year, but Marcel Reed in that game was what Arch Manning people think Arch Manning is this year, I think.
Well, and what he was early in the year. Like,
yes,
let's not act like
things have gotten better. Yeah. But that A&M offensive line did not look the part that we talked about all year. Really did not. And they forced, credit to Texas defense, they forced Marcel Reed into some really uncomfortable situations where he was making throws into double coverage, and it did not work out for them. So shout out Texas. Probably not going to get in, but love the effort. ACC. So UVA just walks the dog against Tech. Really good stuff by them. It was a strong win. Manny Diaz, I saw an article this morning. I'm not sure why it popped in my CBS Sports, where he's not worried about scenarios. He's worried about Wake Forest. Good stuff, Manny Diaz, because guess what we're getting? We're getting, and shout out to Cal, interim coach Cal, for rebounding and getting the win at home. And I think you see a lot of that where it's just like, and SMU's not even a East Coast team, Middle America team going west and losing that game. There is a situation now, and I think UVA is a better team than Duke. The situation now where Duke could win the ACC, and we are very feasibly talking about two group of, I don't know. What do you want to pick now? Does Pac-12 count at this point?
Not this year.
Fine. Group of guys conferences, group of fellows conferences, where James Madison takes care of business in the final game of the season, and pick your winner between North Texas and Tulane. Most likely Tulane, if you're the American, make sure that you want that to happen so you don't get any shenanigans. Two group of conferences getting teams into the playoff. And that's folks, appreciate this. Like, when you say, if you ever said the sport was too top heavy, whatever you want to say about NIL and the portal, which a majority of fans don't like, this is a result. It is a more competitive sport now, which means you could get with the way the playoff structured, two group of conferences, getting guys in, and also not undeserved, because the ACC teams, they're not that. I've watched most of the year. Miami's playing that way. They should have taken care of business in the middle of the season if they didn't want it to be that way. But like, those teams are just as good as anybody in the ACC, especially the two teams playing for a title.
Well, that's, you asked me, it's like Duke versus JMU. I'm JMU all the way. Like, that's, James Madison has wrecked shop with the Sun Belt this year. There's a reason why, they're knocking on the door. And, we've talked so much about the American and just all the teams that have kind of cycled through, to be the last man standing in that conference is a challenge, and is something that's worth celebrating and worth honoring, in my opinion. I do think, we talk about how many teams are in this group of whatever. The reality is that the ACC might be more of a part of the group of whatever at this point. Ooh, obviously there's
like Franklin want to go to Virginia Tech so badly.
But like at this point, I'm rooting for the chaos. I love this. This is what makes college football great, is the weird scenarios and for all the people who floated out the idea that the ACC should just put Miami in anyway. Like, that's not what this game was built on. This game was built on chaos. This game was built on, weird things happening. And this is a weird thing that happened under the rules that we set up before this all started. It also goes to show how that conferences are too big and we need to go back to divisions. But that's neither here nor there. And I think that to act like this is some sort of bad thing or some worst case scenario, I mean, maybe it is a worst case scenario for the ACC, but for college football as a whole, it's cool to see doors open and opportunities open up for programs that often are overlooked. And so then the question is like, okay, well, do you really want to see a James Madison play against Texas A&M? Yes. I do.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That would be fun, even if it was 45-0. Like,
we had a lot of games that were conference champion against conference champion in the Final Four, Jack, that were 45-0.
Just because you come from a big conference doesn't mean it's going to be a close game, and the results shouldn't dictate how we see, how we put teams in, all that kind of stuff. Like, I am excited by the idea of that kind of matchup happening. And look, I was in Kyle Field a couple years ago when App State rolled in and beat them. The Sun Belt can win there. Obviously, these a little bit different Texas A&M team than a couple years ago. But like, the ACC as a whole all season has been chaos. It only makes sense that it would end this way.
Also, this is what you get for the conference championship thing. Like, if you're going to make them play the games, there's a cost associated with your tiebreakers. Also, this is payback for the ACC. I feel like just they were a little suspect on the rules at one point in time. Or the Big Ten during the COVID season did the whole middle.
The whole Ohio State you're in anyway.
This is a big conference payback right here. All right, so you get your fancy tiebreakers. All right, here's what we give you in return. I'm with you on that. I think it's well said. I have nothing to add upon that. And guess what? We had a lot of dog walks last year in the first round, didn't we? We had a lot of non-competitive games first round last year. So this is not a departure from what we've seen. It would not be a departure from what we've seen before. Big Ten really fast. So Ryan Day exercised the demons actually by doing the thing that got him caught last year. They ran the shit out of the football, right? Hey, we got Brutus. And look, Brutus earned that X. He earned the X that he made yesterday. This is why we love rivalries. Is the mascot goes into the snow to cross out the M and to make the poor stadium attendant, who's like the Duke basketball wipe the floor guy in full khakis and whatnot, go out there and have to cross it out. Ryan Day, ever since the loss last year to Michigan, Jack, he's been about as lights out as possible. Like, this guy has got this thing dialed the hell in when it comes to, and look, like Jeremiah Smith hadn't been what we thought he'd be. They lost a couple guys. I mean, we got Mike Tom being like, this is why I go to Columbus, Ohio to get Jack Sawyer. Not too much of a drop off, right? Not too much of a drop off for Ohio State. Also, hey, hell yeah, man. Like Matt Patricia, right? Like, what a little redemption action for you. Love to see that. They're awesome. And so is Indiana too. Indiana says rivalry game. Indiana's looked the part of number 2 team in the country. And I think that game next week will be a compelling, competitive game. I actually think it's one of those NFL type situations where we might see them hold back some stuff because those two teams,
they might meet again later this year.
Way down the line, because those are the 2 best football teams in the country to me, period.
At least the most consistent at this point.
Yes.
And that's there's value to that, especially this season. I do think I feel bad a little bit. I feel like people don't really talk about Ohio State nearly as much as they used to, just because they're so boringly successful. It is a machine at this point that just
what a departure from a year ago this weekend.
Exactly.
What a departure.
Go from firing him for one bad loss, but like you said, like there was a lot of value. I do think that, there was extra weight in this game and extra weight for this coaching staff to, there always is it's called the game for a reason, but there was extra weight this year after what happened last year. And to be able to come in, I always had questions about whether Michigan would be able to move the ball, and they weren't really able to. And Ohio State just said, we're going to take care of business and take all of the drama out of this. And that's what they've done all season. I mean, even back to the Texas game week 1, it's like they weren't real flashy. They didn't just run up the score, but they were businesslike, and it never felt like it was in doubt. And that's the thing with Ohio State all year, is it's never really felt in doubt. This week, we'll see if they can keep that going.
They sit on games the way 2023 Michigan did, right? They're able to the way that Georgia's Kirby's Georgia teams that are at their best, they sit on football games where it's not the 49-7, but like that's not what dominance looks like for them. It's the ability to control the game, not do anything flashy, not give up any plays that they might save for down the line, right? And that's very, I guess the best compliment you can give a team is very Saban-like, that you're able to do things like that and sit on teams like that. So I think that's what I'm appreciating out of that conference. And also shout out to Oregon for taking care of business. I think at this point in time, the angle for like where teams get in. I mean, Vanderbilt's not going to get in. I'm very sad about that, because what an accomplishment. Once again, does not mean it was not an awesome season for them, right? They live and die with Diego, and that cost them against Alabama. A couple red zone turnovers, right? But that sometimes is the difference. I'm not saying Alabama should be out, because I think they're definitely good enough to be in. But like, let's revisit the beginning. You and I talked a couple weeks ago about the Miami and Notre Dame thing. And I don't know where this will come into play. I'm not sure if it will come into play. I'm sure you still probably feel pretty much the same about it. But I guess my thought is that we're watching them play similar teams right now. Right. They both played Pitt recently, and they both beat the brakes off Pitt in a pretty like merciless way. If we're going to use the data points conversation and whatnot, like, do you have any concern about the games not mattering conversation? Or do you just think that this is one of those very specific situations that will arise every once in a while? Because it is the first time, I think it's the first time, right, that we've actually had a team and team play each other same record situation.
Well, Alabama, South Carolina was kind of a case of it last year, I want to say.
So I thought South Carolina was a bit too
ultimately
far
didn't
out.
matter.
Yeah, South Carolina's a little bit too far out for my POV, but yeah,
that's probably maybe the closest analog we've
neither
had.
made it, right?
But neither made it.
We know at least one of these teams will be making the playoff.
More than likely, yes. And I still I don't really see this as I think this is not going to be a rare occasion. I think especially whenever it's the surprise to me is that it's not an SEC team that we're talking about with this, just because they're always, you look at the log jam at 10-2 this year in the SEC. You've got your Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Alabama. Like there's so many of them that are in that log.
I was like, there's so many 10-2 teams. It's just like it's insane how many 10-2 teams were in the SEC. But yeah,
and so sorting through, like, I understand the committee's approach of like, we have to go holistic resume, sort them into buckets, and then work from there. And the indication from the committee was that when they sorted resumes, Notre Dame was in one bucket and Miami was in the other. And if I don't know, I'll be honest, like I'm not well versed enough in their resumes to be able to have an opinion on whether
Jack and I do the mock committee is what we're saying. Let us be in the mock committee.
But if they are in, like, we shouldn't just say, oh well, one beat each other week 1 and that's the end all be all, because I think that there are so many other factors, and especially when things get this crowded, you can't simplify it down to that level.
I guess my thought is I don't think the resumes are too dissimilar to not have a conversation about those two teams together. I know I think they separated them because were they ever back to back in the rankings? I don't think they were.
Believe so.
Right, they're always kept apart a little bit. Like if you look at them as if you look at those two resumes, I think next to each other, I don't think they're totally dissimilar. Now I know that Miami will get dinged because like they did not play a lot of good teams in the interim, and they lost by 3 to Louisville. And they lose by, what was it? It was over 6 in overtime to SMU.
6 to SMU.
Yeah. Notre Dame loses by 3 to Miami, and then they lose by 1 to A&M. But like, man, one loss is better than the other. I understand. I totally get it. But I do worry that we are approaching the exhibition level of beginning of the season. A little bit like week 1 doesn't matter at all. It's like, if these teams don't schedule each other, I will not die. But if I'm covering the sport and you're asking me to assess, and I think these teams might be in the same neighborhood resume wise, and they're both not going to play this week too. I have a very difficult time with it. I really do. And if Miami and Notre Dame play today, it's a very close, very exciting game. That's what I think. The problem is they played earlier. I just want that. Like I just want that to matter. I really want that to matter. And if they put them both in, that's fine. I think those are 2 of the 12 best teams anyway. But yeah,
but are they 2 of the best 10? And that's the real question.
The best 10 teams. Yeah, that's right. Actually, I think they are pretty clearly. But like, I think that's the thing is that I have a tough time. It's like, because you have to do a bit more work to say Notre Dame is ahead of Miami for this reason. If I came to you and say same record, we view them similarly. One team beat the other. We don't care when it happened. It happened in a 12-game season. Could you not co-sign on that? Or so it depends for you, does it?
It depends because if we say these 2 teams, like, because the reality is that, you look at the rest of the resume and it's like, okay, outside of that game, the loss to Louisville weighs so heavily in this to me. And the loss to SMU is not that much better. And so it's like when you compare, I guess, those losses to the losses of Notre Dame, like it's a hard.
But the problem is losses plural and one is Miami. That's the problem, right? Like I get it. The A&M loss is a much better loss considering what we've seen from A&M this year. But the issue is, it's like you are almost blind resumeing the loss, blinding the logo losses, because like if you put the logos up, one played the other. It's just.
But I mean, like, we could argue, like, Texas.
I prefer the way Notre Dame lost. But the problem is one of the losses is Miami.
Texas and Georgia, like they're Texas beat the snot out of Oklahoma.
Georgia, Texas.
No, out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to argue Texas is better than Oklahoma, or is that one extra loss like?
But it's
they're in the same kind of resume conversation. Like, should Texas?
But in this format, we separate 9-3 and 10-2 in the same conference.
Why?
Like, well, but if we're gonna do that, we're gonna go closer towards like.
I'm saying like this is the type of thing. Like, so say if Texas, had not played Ohio State at the beginning of the year.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Would Texas inherently be ahead of Oklahoma? Like I
believe they would.
I don't know what the.
You don't think so?
I haven't sat down and looked at to look at.
But here's the problem though: is that like that game was like convincingly Texas was much better than Oklahoma. Like that was not a very close football game if you watched it, and that is. But here's the nice thing for Oklahoma this year:
Texas did lose to Ohio State.
So it's a little bit nicer for them, and that goes. And look, once again, it should be a year-by-year deal. I totally believe that. But the concept of the wins and losses matter does mean something. That's like we all know where to draw a certain line. We should. And it's when the two teams, because if you're going to be a committee that's used the term data points for what, better part of a decade and a half now, like data points are games. And these teams play each other in games.
I guess my pushback would just be like, so say like what is Notre Dame's 9 right now? If
I think it's 9-13, 9-12, 9-13,
and then if Notre Dame had lost to the 13th team, you would put them ahead of Miami. Like instead of Miami, if Notre Dame had played the 13th best team and lost to them, Notre Dame would have the better resume.
13. So you mean if you replace the Miami loss?
Yeah. If instead of
they played Miami though.
But what I'm saying is, so if Miami or if Notre Dame had played a worse team than Miami and lost to that team,
yes, I understand what you're saying.
Their resume would somehow be better.
No, well, okay,
because that's what you're arguing. You're arguing
yes.
is that their resume would be better if they lost to a worse team.
But our resume is not shaped by that commonality, right? Like the sometimes conferences used common opponent record against common opponents, right, for tiebreakers. So if we're going to do that to decide who should go to a conference championship games, should we not be using that to decide who goes to a college football playoff? Like, because they are common.
My point is just that if we're talking resumes,
yes,
and the argument is that if Notre Dame would have lost to the 20th ranked team instead of losing to the 12th ranked team, that their resume would somehow be better and more valid compared to Miami.
Right.
To me, that is not logical.
And to me,
feels what the argument is.
Right, but to me, what busts the logic up is the fact they did play. Like, if Miami is a 9-3 team and had an extra loss in there, then we're having a separate conversation. It's like, well, there's one more data point to look at about a loss. But the thing is that their resumes are very similar, because this Notre Dame schedule, by no fault of their own, is not as strong as a typical Notre Dame schedule is. Because I think, like Stanford was terrible. USC was,
they're solid.
They're fine. Yeah.
Comparatively to the last decade.
Yeah. But if we're going to look at commonalities, like they both are 10-2, they both will not play next week. They both beat the brakes off a good, like Pitt would be a really good common data point for them to have. Right. And like one team's like, that's a good team. We can both look at and be like, they both smoked Pitt. So like, I would just be like, all right, what else do they have in common? It's like, well, I know I don't like the fact that it's like it happened back then. Look, we're gonna have to do the NFL part. We're gonna have to NFL it. We're gonna have to NFL it and be like, hey, we're gonna let 14 teams in, and it's gonna be, you can get your divisions back.
Yeah,
you get your divisions back. All right, Jack, we got to roll. Where can folks find you and your work and all of its variety?
At Jack Allen TV on social media. We're all about Ryan Silverfield right now, so we'll be at the press conference on Thursday. Which why they're waiting till Thursday, I don't know. Maybe weather.
I can tell you. Hunter, your Jack's gotta go to Dallas.
He's got to go to the college football playoff committee. Yep. I think it's weather tomorrow. College football committee on Tuesday.
3 more days for your fans to get angry. Why not do it?
Why not? Why?
Yeah. All right, at CC Podcast JN, and also at Josh Neighbors _ Find us wherever you get your podcast. Like the video, sub to the channel, leave your comments. We always appreciate those as well. All right, folks, a lot more to chew on this time of year. Jack, we always appreciate you, man.
Yep.